Good morning from the National Weather Service office in Lake Charles. I'm meteorologist Donald Jones with your Monday morning update on the potential winter storm, or it's not really much of a potential anymore. We're pretty certain we're going to have ourselves a winter storm here by late tonight and into Tuesday, as well as the extreme cold that's ongoing across the region and will continue to be ongoing across the region for probably the next at least 4 days or so. Happy Martin Luther King to everybody out there. Or Martin Luther King Day, I should say, to everyone out there this morning. Also, happy Inauguration Day this morning. A lot going on. We also have the College Football National Championship tonight. So very busy day. And then, of course, we have a lot of weather on top of that to talk about. We got the latest snowfall totals. They haven't changed a whole lot from this time last night. We're still looking at widespread amounts of 3 up to 6 inches in some locations. So we're going to talk about that. I've got the graphics here for you. And then we're also going to talk about the very cold temperatures that we're expecting across the area, with the coldest temperatures tomorrow night into Wednesday morning after that snow passes. So that snow, any snow that falls across the area is going to stay on the ground for a couple of days, because we're going to stay below freezing for probably somewhere between 50 and 60 consecutive hours. Before we jump into our briefing, I want to share an interesting little tidbit that one of our forecasters brought to my attention this morning. We've been talking about this not being a record snowfall event, and the reason for that is we had a major snowstorm in this area of the world way back in 1895, where we saw 10 to 20 inches of snow across most of the region. We also had another significant snowstorm in 1960. Okay, and then we're talking about another major snowstorm coming tonight and tomorrow morning. It's been exactly 65 years between tomorrow and 1960, and then exactly 65 years between 1960 and 1895. So it's an interesting little tidbit there that we had roughly 60 or exactly 65 years between the most major snow events that we've had in recorded history in this area. Just something to kind of keep in mind. 65 years down the road, maybe don't make any plans for getting out on the roadways. As always, this is a live interactive briefing, so if you have any questions as you go through our briefing here, feel free to post them in our comments section, and we'll be happy to answer them just as soon as we wrap up our briefing. Let's go ahead and jump into it here this morning. Again, we're starting the day off in the lower 20s to possibly mid-20s. I think we're 24, 25 here at the Lake Charles Airport last I looked just a few minutes ago. So low to mid-20s across pretty much the entire region this morning. And it is still a little breezy out there. The winds have come down from where they were yesterday, but we're still looking at winds about 10 miles an hour or thereabouts. So that is putting those wind chill values down in the teens this morning. So if you're heading out this morning, dress appropriately. It is very cold out there. And that's going to be the trend here for the next several days. This is not the coldest night or coldest morning we're going to be. That's actually going to come Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, where we'll have temperatures in the lower teens and wind chill values in the single digits, close to zero in some locations for those wind chill values. We are going to be looking at again, snowfall totals beginning late tonight, I think as early as 6 p.m., but I think the vast majority of the snowfall is not going to begin until after midnight. We're still looking at 2 to 6 inches of rainfall, or snowfall totals, just to say, across the region. I keep making that mistake. I keep saying rainfall instead of snowfall. 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, and I'm not ruling out the possibility of up to 10 inches in a few locations. That is a realistic scenario. We've had several models show up to 10 inches of snow in some locations. We are going to be looking at, then, like I said, about roughly 50 to 60 hours of below freezing temperatures beginning tonight. After sunset, we're going to fall below freezing. We're probably not going to rise above freezing again until sometime Thursday afternoon. So all of the snow that we're expecting to fall tomorrow, whatever does fall and accumulates, is going to stick around all day Wednesday night, and through Thursday morning until we finally get above freezing sometime Thursday afternoon. Now, we're going to fall back below freezing again Thursday night into Friday morning, so I don't expect all the snow is going to have melted off by then either. I think most of the snow is going to wind up melting sometime Friday afternoon. We're going to get into the 50s Friday afternoon. That'll allow most of the snow to melt. But if we do have large accumulations that are in shady areas, the snow could stick around in some form to as late as Saturday. So kind of keep that in mind. The snow is going to fall all tomorrow, but it's going to stick around probably through the end of the week across most of the region. This is a look at the latest winter storm warning. This was updated from a watch yesterday, and this is in effect for the entire region. A winter storm warning essentially means that we're expecting significant impacts from winter weather. That's basically what it means. Again, snowfall accumulations of 2 to 6 inches are expected across the region, and the winds are going to pick up once again as we go through the day on Tuesday. So we are looking at wind gusts of up to 35 miles per hour possible, which combined with the snow, that's getting very close to blizzard conditions. It's not out of the realm of possibility that we may need to issue a blizzard warning for parts of the area as we go through tomorrow. Something I never thought I'd have to say in this part of the world, but blizzard conditions are certainly within reach for some areas as we go through the day tomorrow. Roads, especially bridges and elevated overpasses, will likely become slick and hazardous and will be subject to being closed. Not all roads are going to close, but there is the possibility that quite a few of them will, especially those bridges and overpasses. So travel at a minimum is going to become very, very difficult, if not impossible, and very hazardous as well as we go through the day on Tuesday. So we strongly recommend delaying travel if at all possible. If you must get out on the roads, if you have some kind of an emergency, or you have to get something for some dire reason, you absolutely use extreme caution, go slow. Excuse me. Having a cough attack here. Also, snow has a tendency to reduce visibility, so turn on low beam headlights. Not so much to see what's going on in front of you, but so that other motorists can see your vehicle, because snow, especially when we get into heavy snow, we can have visibilities reduced to a quarter mile or less. So we're talking the same kind of visibilities as you would see in a dense fog type of situation. We also have, this is the cold weather advisory. This was is actually in effect right now. It goes until noon today. This is for these very cold temperatures that we're experiencing this morning and very cold wind chills. This product is issued anytime we're expecting temperatures or wind chills to drop to 20 degrees or lower, and our wind chill values are there this morning. They are going to be there again tonight. So you see this goes into effect again from 6 p.m. this evening and continues until 6 p.m. That says 6 p.m. Tuesday. I believe that should 6 p.m. Tuesday for this. And then we're going to actually have a product that's even stronger than this. It's called a extreme cold weather. It's a watch right now, but it will be upgraded to a warning. This goes from 6 p.m. Tuesday until 9 a.m. Wednesday. This is when we're expecting temperatures or wind chills to fall to 10 degrees or less. And we're expecting 10-degree temperatures in the lower teens with wind chills as low as 5. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we see wind chill values approach 0 as we go through Tuesday evening and into Wednesday morning. In addition, obviously, with the strong winds that are going to be gusting 35 plus miles an hour inland, we're going to be looking at strong winds offshore as well. So we're looking at 30 to 35 knots of wind offshore, gusting to 45. That'll increase seas to 3 to 7 feet. So we do have a gale warning in effect for the coastal waters. So not that you'd want to be out on the waters in this kind of cold anyway, but if you are, you're going to be looking at very strong winds to go along with it. Now, this is the latest look at our forecast snowfall accumulations. We are looking at generally between 4 and 6 inches of snowfall across a large swath of the region, generally along and south of, say, Highway 190. Or thereabouts. This does include all of the I-10 corridor. I think the snowfall totals are going to be a little bit lower right along the immediate coastline. We'll see exactly where those bands set up. And there's going to be a pretty sharp gradient off to the north because of how this low is going to track. There's actually another frontal boundary that's going to be coming through and kind of cutting off the moisture and the precipitation from the north to the south. So that is going to have the potential to somewhat limit snowfall accumulations across central Louisiana. Still right now looking at anywhere from 2 to up to 4 inches up that way, and we could see some locally higher amounts. Again, like I said earlier, 10 inches of snow is not out of the realm of possibility for some areas. Not everybody's going to see that much, but there is the possibility that we could see up to 10 inches of snow in a few locations. Again, the higher snow amounts, as we talked about yesterday, could lead to some significant weight additions on roofs, failure, especially of flat roofs and overhangs, so like porch overhangs, things that very relatively flimsy aluminum. Handling all that weight could potentially lead to collapse of those awnings and overhangs. I've got one personally, so I'm a bit concerned about that myself. But that is something that is going to be a factor. Snow is heavy because it's water. Water by itself is heavy, and this is expected to be a wet snow, as we call it, which means it has a high water content, within it. So we do expect that there is going to be some significant weight, especially if you get towards that 6+ to 10 inches. That is certainly going to be a lot of extra weight on roofs. So that is certainly going to be a concern. There's not a whole lot we can do. Somebody was asking, what can we do to prepare for that? There's really not a whole lot you can do to prepare for that other than just to be aware of it as a possibility. There's no real precautions you can take to prevent that. It's not like you can go put cooking spray on your roof to let the snow slide off before it gets too heavy. Don't get any ideas. That is not a good idea. I'm just using that as an example. There's really not much you can do to prevent that. It's just something to be aware of. Now, again, the strong combination of those strong winds we were talking about, as well as the snow on tree limbs, tree branches, especially pine trees and pine tree branches, will have the potential to cause some branches to come tumbling down, and in the process could take out some power lines. So power outages are going to be a possibility as we go through the day tomorrow. And in addition to the threat of power outages from the snow itself, the fact that we're going to be very cold is going to put a strain on the electrical grid because everybody's going to be warming their houses using a lot more electricity. So kind of bear that in mind. Blackouts, brownouts for periods of time are also going to be a possibility. So we've been advocating for the last couple of days to have an alternative source of warmth, whether that be a generator that can run space heaters. Fireplaces are good options as long as they're used safely. The chemical hand warmers and foot warmers that are sold in retail stores, those are also good options. You could also just layer yourself in a bunch of jackets and blankets and stuff. That also works too. But make sure you have an alternative source and be prepared for the possibility of power outages as we go through the day tomorrow. With those winds gusting to 35 miles per hour, there could be some delay in getting the power back on also because bucket trucks can only, they have criteria that they have to have winds below a certain threshold in order to work on power lines. So there could be, if the power goes out, it could be out for some time until those winds come down and those trucks can get out there and make those appropriate repairs. Obviously, vehicle travel is going to become very, very difficult and hazardous. So we strongly discourage travel if at all possible. If you must get out, go very slow, use your low beam headlights. If you have the option to use 4-wheel drive vehicles, that is a better option. It doesn't make you invincible from ice, but it does give you a slightly better control over vehicles than a standard 2-wheel drive vehicle. So just a couple of things to keep in mind with regards to travel there. This is a product that we've started issuing here. It's another fairly new product within the Weather Service. It's called the Winter Storm Severity Index. And this just kind of gives you an idea of where the worst of the expected impacts are going to be. And as I realize this is kind of a difficult map to kind of look at and digest. It doesn't have a lot of landmarks on it, but you can kind of see the parish outlines there and county outlines, as well as a couple of the cities. And you can see the areas highlighted in the red, which is essentially along and just to the essentially between I-10 and Highway 190, roughly, is the area we're talking about for the most significant and major impacts. This is where we're talking about very dangerous driving conditions, obviously widespread closures. Obviously, we're aware of that already. Most of city services around the region, as well as schools, have already shut down, and significant disruptions to infrastructure will also occur. The rest of the region up towards central Louisiana, down near the coast, are looking at moderate impacts that will also consider or consist of hazardous driving conditions and closures and disruptions to infrastructure and city services, as we're also well aware of. Those have shut down pretty proactively for this event well in advance. That may partially do with the fact that it's a holiday weekend. It may also partially be due to the fact that this is a pretty well forecast event, and we've been talking about it now for several days. Let's talk a little bit about the timing now. We're looking at, again, there is a low-end possibility that we could see a few snowflakes, a few snow flurries begin as early as late this evening. The absolute earliest will probably be about 6 or 7 p.m. I think we'll see a little bit more in the way of some flakes, maybe by about 9. But the vast majority of this activity is going to be after midnight tonight. You see the probabilities for precipitation go way up after midnight, and for Southeast Texas, we're looking probably closer to more like 2 or 3 in the morning for the activity to really ramp up. So between roughly about midnight and noontime is when the majority of the snowfall is expected to occur. We're still going to be seeing some on and off snow showers through the afternoon. You can see it goes to as late as about 5 p.m. tomorrow evening, but the majority of this activity is going to be during the morning hours Tuesday morning. Taking a look at the central and southwest Louisiana time frame, you're looking at very similar, perhaps just a couple of hours difference, a couple of hours a little bit later. We are looking at, again, maybe a few flurries during the late evening this evening into tonight, but the vast majority of the activity is going to be begin during the early morning hours tomorrow morning, likely between about midnight and 3 a.m. for them to begin, really ramping up between about 6 a.m. and noon, and then tapering back off between about noon and 5 p.m. Most of the activity, if not all of the activity, should then be out of here by about 5 p.m. tomorrow evening. Let's take a look at the latest probabilities. Now, I went ahead and didn't even show the probability of seeing some amount of snow because I think we're pretty much at 100% or virtually 100% that everybody across the region is going to see some amount of snow as we go through tomorrow. So I'm starting by talking about the probability of seeing greater than 2 inches of snow. You can see we're looking at roughly about an 80 to 90% chance of seeing more than 2 inches of snow across most of the region south of Highway 190. North, we're looking at closer to about a 50 to 70% chance of seeing more than 2 inches of snow. This is the probability of seeing more than 4 inches of snow. You can see we're looking at roughly about a 60 to 80% chance of seeing more than 4 inches of snow along and south of Highway 190 to the coast, and then about a 30 to 60% chance of seeing more than 4 inches of snow north of Highway 190 across central Louisiana and interior parts of southeast Texas. This is the probability of seeing more than 6 inches of snow, roughly about a 50 to 70% chance along and south of Highway 190, and about a 30 to 50% chance north of Highway 190 up towards, say, the Alexandria area, Fort Johnson, Jasper, Newton counties, those areas. And then finally, take a look at the probability of seeing more than 8 inches of snow. We're still looking at about a 40 to 50% chance of seeing more than 8 inches of snow, roughly across, say, Jefferson and Orange counties, Cameron, Calcasieu, Beauregard, Allen, Jeff Davis, Acadia, Lafayette, St. Landry, Vermilion, and Evangeline parishes. You can see the parishes and their probabilities there on the left-hand side if you can't pick them out on the map there. And then we're looking at about a 15 to 30% chance of more than 8 inches of snow for Tyler, Hardin, Jasper, and Newton, as well as Vernon, Rapides, and Avoyelles parishes. So again, I think the upper limit here is probably going to be somewhere in the 10-ish inch range. You can see even at 8 inches, we're still looking at a 40 to 50% chance. So which means there's a possibility we could be looking at even more than that in a few localized spots. The good news is that the probability of ice accumulation for freezing rain has continued to decrease and is virtually negligible at this point. There's about a 10% chance we could see a little bit down across parts of St. Mary, Iberia, St. Martin parishes, possibly coastal parts of Cameron and Vermilion, but this is likely to be short-lived, and we're not expecting any kind of significant accumulation of freezing rain. So that's the good news of all of this. Freezing rain is definitely the more dangerous of the winter precipitations. That's where you start getting a lot more ice on roadways, ice hanging off of power lines, and a lot more potential damage. Snow has the potential to do some damage on its own, but ice from freezing rain is usually a whole lot worse. Let's talk a little bit now about the extreme cold we're expecting across the region. Obviously, we're very cold out there this morning. We're in the low to mid 20s. We're going to be looking at very similar conditions again tonight into Tuesday morning. Again, low to mid 20s across most of the region. Mid to maybe upper 20s, if you want to call 26 the upper 20s, right along the immediate coastline. But generally, low to mid 20s across the entire region expected tonight into tomorrow morning. And again, once we drop below freezing tonight, we're going to stay below freezing all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, and most of the day Thursday. We'll finally get above freezing sometime Thursday afternoon, but we're looking at 2+ solid days of staying below freezing. Forecast lows Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. This is going to be our coldest day of this event. We're going to be looking at temperatures in the lower teens, possibly some single digits. You see some 9 degrees in there in the Radley, Opelousas area. That dark blue covering parts of Acadia Parish and Jeff Davis Parish. So yeah, some single-digit temperatures Tuesday night into Wednesday morning is certainly within the realm of possibility. And then adding in those wind chill factors, we're talking about wind chill values close to 0. Now, by Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we're a few degrees warmer, but we're still looking at low to mid-teens across most of the region. And then finally, by Thursday afternoon, we're going to warm up above freezing, but we're not going to stay up there very long. We're going to fall back well below freezing again Thursday night into Friday morning. Again, looking at another round of low to mid 20s across the region. We may stay above freezing right along the immediate coastline, but most of the areas away from the immediate coast will fall back into the low to mid 20s Thursday night into Friday. This is kind of just a summary of those graphics going a little bit more detailed. This is every 3 hours. So you can see this large swath of below freezing temperatures roughly from shortly after sunset tonight to will be above freezing very briefly. You can see the greens there kind of Thursday afternoon, but then back below freezing by Thursday evening into Friday. So all of this to say, besides the fact that it's going to be extremely cold, any snow that falls is going to stay on the ground all day Wednesday and most of the day Thursday before finally beginning to melt slightly Thursday afternoon, but only for a few hours before we drop back below freezing. And if we do, anything that's left will stick around until Friday afternoon when we finally will get above freezing for a more longer duration period of time. You can see on this graphic, this is our Louisiana cities. You can see we get above freezing by roughly about 10, 11 a.m. Friday, and we're going to stay above freezing all afternoon. So that'll give us roughly about 8 hours or so for that snow to melt off. That's why I'm thinking the majority of the snow is going to melt off during the day and afternoon on Friday. There may be a little bit left by Saturday in some shady spots if we have a lot of accumulation, but the majority of the snow will likely melt off on Friday afternoon. Taking a look at the forecast wind gusts for the next, say, day and into tomorrow. We're looking at gusts to about 15 to maybe 20 miles an hour today, but higher wind gusts tomorrow with the snow. We're looking at 25 up to 30, maybe even 35 mile an hour wind gusts as we go through the day tomorrow. That's going to, besides blow the snow around, it's also going to make it feel positively miserable out there. You can see our Louisiana cities, we're looking at gusts close to 35 miles an hour. The criteria for a blizzard warning is 35 mile per hour winds and quarter mile visibility. So it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that we could meet those conditions tomorrow, especially tomorrow morning, and especially closer to the coastline. The winds are going to be even higher right along the coast. So if we're going to see a blizzard, ironically, it's going to be very close to the coast. Cameron may see blizzard conditions as we go into the day tomorrow. These are our forecast minimum wind chill values. Again, this is tonight going into Tuesday. You can see low teens, possibly a couple of single digits as we go into Tuesday morning. So very, very cold feels like temperatures out there. Tuesday night into Wednesday, this is again going to be our coldest night of the week. You can see those wind chill values 5 degrees or less. It wouldn't surprise me if we approach 0 for those feels like temperatures going into to Tuesday night into Wednesday. This is very similar to what we saw during the extreme cold of 2021 that busted a lot of pipes and caused a whole lot of problems. These are the type of temperatures that they're going to be very similar to what we're going to be dealing with over the next couple of days. Wednesday night into Thursday, we're going to be looking at upper teens to lower 20s. So again, very, very cold, although relatively warmer than what we're going to see Tuesday night into Wednesday, but still certainly very, very dangerous. This chart here, again, summarizes these are the wind chill values, same as we did with the regular temperatures. You can see the very long duration period of wind chill values in the teens. That's denoted by the light and dark blues there. And same thing for our southwest and central Louisiana cities. We're looking at long duration wind chills in the teens to possibly single digits across a large part of the area. Taking a look, these are the forecast hours below freezing. Again, we're going to get below freezing right around or shortly after sunset this evening, and we're not going to climb back above freezing across most areas until sometime late Thursday morning. So we're talking about 50 to 60 hours, consecutive hours below freezing across the area. So besides the keeping the snow on the ground for that long, we're also going to be looking at obviously a significant risk to pipes. What essentially we've been saying is any non-moving exposed water will begin to freeze. Now, it may just be a thin layer if it's a deep amount of water, but any non-moving exposed water will begin to freeze with this duration of sub-freezing temperatures. That's what we have here from the National Weather Service. We are going to do another one of these briefings this evening at 7 p.m. We've kind of been doing 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. for the last few days. That's worked out pretty well. I think we're going to continue to do that. So our next briefing will be 7 p.m. this evening. and that'll probably be our last briefing before the snow begins to fall across the region. So we're going to answer questions here for the next few minutes. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. If you don't have any questions and you're happy and wonderful and fantastic, then you're free to head on out, and we'll see you again this evening at 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and jump back here. If you posted a question at the beginning, I'm not going to go all the way back to the beginning because a lot of people jump on and jump off, but throw it back in there again, and I will be happy to answer it for you. Let me go ahead and back up here. I'm going to go back to the snowfall totals because that's generally what everybody's particularly interested in. And let me see if we do have any questions here. Bart asks, do you think travel to North Louisiana will be possible by Friday evening? I'm going to say probably. Again, we're going to see most of the snow burn off or begin to melt off, I should say, not burn off, by during the day Friday. We're going to get well above freezing. We should have sunshine. That's going to help. And the roads tend to warm back up faster than grassy areas. So yeah, I do expect that the snow should be off of roadways by Friday. So I think your odds are better than not that you're going to be in good shape by Friday afternoon. Haley says daycares are telling parents they may close early because Homeland Security said by 4 p.m. you need to be where you plan on staying. Is this accurate? I need you, the pro, to let us know what's really happening. We are not expecting any snow to even begin by 4 p.m. So that is not, I mean, I'm not saying they didn't say that, but that is not accurate. There will be almost certainly no road hazards by 4 p.m. this afternoon. If we're going to start to see road hazards, it likely will not be until after midnight tonight. So, that's my professional opinion. Tara asked, did he just laugh saying the word blizzard? Yeah, because it's absurd to be talking about blizzard conditions in Southwest Louisiana. I do find it absurdly amusing. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm shortchanging it at all because it's a very serious situation. But I never thought that I would be saying the possibility of a blizzard warning in Southwest Louisiana in my career. But here we are. Harry says, how do they deal with this daily up north? No thanks. Well, their infrastructure is built a little bit differently. For one, it happens frequently, so they build for it and they prepare for it, and they know how to deal with it. We don't deal with this on a regular basis. John says, does anybody got a jacket I can borrow? John, you're just now trying to find a jacket. It's already like 25 degrees outside. It's cold. You should have had a jacket by now. Got to prepare. I've been yelling prepare for 3 days. Gomer says, watching from Southeast Georgia. Thank you for the update. You're quite welcome. And thank you for watching all the way there in Georgia, where I think there may be the possibility of some snow over that way as well. I've been focused so much in on this area that I'm not really sure, but I know it's going to cover a large swath of the South. It's not just us that's going to be dealing with this storm. Katie says, do you think the airport will close and be unable to operate flights? Well, first, that depends on what airport you're talking about. But second, that's going to depend on whether the runways ice up. Ice on planes is not an issue. There are de-icing agents that are very effective. So that's not a concern. The concern is whether the runways will ice up and whether the airports have the equipment to deal with that. Some do, some don't. Then, of course, there's the other issue of actually getting to the airport to catch any flights, because we may be looking at some significant road closures across the region. So I do expect that there are going to be disruptions, whether that's just delays, whether it's outright cancellations. I think there will be air disruptions from this. Yes, absolutely. Bryce, does any thoughts on the low pressure drifting further south than expected that could change the snow accumulations in the southeast Texas area? I keep seeing the 20 to 40 mile difference of several inches to 0 inches, depending on where the snow band's set up. Well, you're right about the snow bands part. You know, some areas are going to see much more snow than others. You know, this map behind me here looks nice and uniform, but reality is not going to look that pretty. It's going to be pockets, you know, here and there. Some areas a couple areas might get 10 inches. Some areas might get 6 inches. A larger area might get 4 inches. A couple of areas might get very little. I think everybody's going to see some, but you may not see as much as is being advertised here. Snow forecasting is very, very difficult. And the exact, as you mentioned, the exact track of that low is going to play a factor in that. This forecast has been very consistent for the last couple of days. Computer models have actually been in very good agreement. So we're feeling pretty good about this forecast, generally speaking. Of course, even when we're feeling confident in a forecast, that doesn't necessarily mean that, again, there's going to be pockets of higher and lower snow totals out there. So don't take this as gospel. This is just kind of give you a broad overview of the kind of numbers we're going to be talking about. Dustin asks, do we need to drip every single faucet or just on exterior walls? Generally speaking, you want to drip the faucet that's further from the intake of your water, where your water comes into your house. That way it has to flow through all of your pipes. That's the goal, is to have water moving through all of your pipes. Now, you don't necessarily have to drip every faucet to get that to occur, but that's what you're looking for, is that to keep the water moving in the pipes all throughout your house. Eileen says, you are mentioning the possibility of up to 10 inches in certain areas. What areas specifically, please? I can't tell you. Forecasting is not that good. I can't tell you specifically what this town is going to get 10 inches and this town is going to get 6 inches. I'm saying that there is the possibility of up to 10 inches, but I can't tell you specifically where that's going to be. Justin says, why is meteorologist Eric Graves saying the storm has shifted some 20 to 30 miles south? I don't know. You'd have to ask meteorologist Eric Graves. I'm not a mind reader. You'd have to ask him that. That's not something I can answer either. Carrie says, when's all this over? When are the temps going to be above freezing? We're going to get above freezing for a couple of hours Thursday afternoon. But we're going to spend more time above freezing on Friday. So I think that's when the snow is going to do the majority of its melting off. Okay, so here we're looking at, this is just southeast Texas cities as an example. You can see by Thursday afternoon, by about noontime, you can see we're well above freezing. We're between about 9 a.m. and noon, we're going to get above freezing. So we're going to spend some time above freezing Thursday afternoon. We're going to spend more time above freezing, though, on Friday. You can see we're above freezing before 9 a.m. Friday morning. So I think the majority of the snow is going to melt off by or during the day on Friday. Keith says, if we do lose power, are we looking for that to happen if it does Tuesday morning, considering that's when the most snowfall arrives? That would probably be the most likely time. Tuesday morning, possibly Tuesday afternoon. That is going to be the most likely time for you to lose power. But again, we're talking about power outages not just due to snow, but also due to stress on the electrical system from everybody using their electrical heaters. So that will probably peak sometime Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, because that's when the coldest temperatures are going to be. So that's when those heaters are going to be running the hardest to keep homes warm. So just because you make it through the day Tuesday without losing power, you may still wind up losing it sometime Tuesday night if the power or the infrastructure is stressed by that overuse of power. Casey says, is Louisiana considering a shelter in place? I've heard that on and off. I'm not sure if they're officially calling it a shelter in place, but that's generally going to be the recommendation. You know, essentially what they're advocating is not getting out on the roads and traveling if you absolutely don't have to. I haven't heard about an official shelter in place, but that's I'm sure what they're getting towards is to just stay off the roads if you can avoid it. Holly says, do you think we can fly out of Lafayette Friday morning at 6 a.m.? Would need to drive to Lafayette from Lake Charles around 4 a.m. That's going to be iffy. I'm not 100% sure on that. We're going to have to see how much snow falls between here and there. That's a question that you probably better off sending me a message on Facebook, say Wednesday, and I may have a little bit better idea for you with regards to that, because it's going to depend on exactly how much snow is going to fall, how much is on the roadways, and then we'll have to kind of estimate how long it'll take for that to melt off. Angela asked, is it safe to travel home from Lafayette tonight? That depends where you're going, but in general, yes. We're not expecting any kind of significant road hazards before about midnight tonight. Ava says, I unfortunately have to work in Sulphur tonight overnight, getting off around 4 to 5 in the morning. What am I looking at in Sulphur back to Lake Charles? You're going to be looking at probably ongoing snow showers. Conditions will be deteriorating on the roads. I'm not sure if there will be enough accumulation at that point for road closures, but you will be looking, you'll probably be driving through some snow showers, and that snow will be beginning to accumulate. Danny says, estimate the earliest deteriorating driving conditions tonight, please. Probably not until after midnight. Again, that's what we're looking for. The timing, let me see if I can pull that back up here real quick. Backy. There we go. And we'll make that full screen for you. This is our probability of precipitation hour by hour. So you can see the precipitation probabilities really kind of begin to pick up after midnight. The highest probabilities are roughly about 6 a.m. to noon or thereabouts. So conditions will gradually begin to deteriorate through the early morning and continue through the rest of the morning, and then kind of come to an end by early evening, right around or perhaps just a little bit before sunset. So you can see the rain chance, or not the rain chances, but the snow chances as we go through Monday evening. We're talking about 10, 15, maybe 20% for some light flurries. That's not going to be enough to shut down roadways. So I don't expect road conditions to deteriorate until after midnight tonight. Janine's asking about any Lake Charles Airport updates. No, I haven't heard anything from the Lake Charles Airport. I think they, like most road conditions, they're going to take a wait and see approach. They'll shut down if they need to, when they need to, but I don't know that they're going to announce closures necessarily in advance. Laura says, if I need to evacuate, should I go to North Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, or East? Laura, we're not talking about evacuating for snow. That's not really something you evacuate for. But if you wanted to avoid the snow, I would suggest going north, because again, we're going to have a frontal boundary. There's going to be a sharp delineation between where the snow is heaviest and when it really kind of drops off the further north you go. So if you really want to do that, then north would be the acceptable place to go. Mike says, that's the quote of the year. Cameron may have blizzard conditions. Words that I never thought would come out of my mouth in that order. That is a new sentence for me. Terry asks, does the state plan on salting or sanding the roads prior to the system moving in, and will back roads be included? Yeah, I think they have been pre-treating some roads and some bridges. I can't tell you exactly which ones. You know, I don't work for them. We don't have that close of a dialogue with them. But I do know that they've been either pre-staging or pre-treating various roadways. I'm sure they have a strategy for which they do that. Most likely, it's going to be your main arteries more so than secondary roads, and then bridges and overpasses. Beth asks, when the snow starts to melt, will ice form again when it goes below freezing? Yes, if snow melts and it's still liquid and then we drop below freezing during the night, it would freeze again as ice, yes. Eileen asks, is Lafayette one of the cities that could get 10 inches? Yes. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but yeah, there is a possibility that Lafayette could, not will, but could see up to 10 inches. Michael says, for every 1 inch of rain, it equals 10 inches of snow. That's correct, and also not at the same time. The ratio of snow to liquid actually varies. It can vary from 5 to 1 to 50 to 1. The normal, or the kind of the I guess the base, if you will, is 10 to 1. You're correct about that. But the snow to what we call the snow to liquid ratio can vary significantly depending on exactly where the ice crystals form in the atmosphere and how much moisture is in that air mass when it forms. So it's actually a very complex process. So you're correct in that it could be 10 to 1, but it could also be 20 to 1. It could be 30 to 1. It could be 5 to 1. It could be 50 to 1. That's what we mean when we're talking about wet versus dry snow. I expect that this snow is going to be relatively wet, so 10 to 1 may wind up being the case. But I just want you to know that it doesn't necessarily have to be that. Mike, how do you think travel will be at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning in Beaumont? I think conditions will be deteriorating on roadways during that time. It's possible you may have some road closures already by that time, or if not at that time, shortly thereafter. Chad and Chastity say, should I put my soft top vehicle under cover? Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm not sure that you're going to get enough accumulation on top of a vehicle roof to cause it to cave in. But then again, I'm not sure how much weight that is capable of handling. So yeah, it probably would be a good idea. Arby asks, what do you suggest for the mail carriers of Louisiana? Well, again, we're strongly discouraging travel on Tuesday. That said, you know, the mail has a motto, isn't it? Sleet, snow, freezing rain, hurricane, all that stuff. But I mean, I guess that's going to be their decisions to make as to whether they're going to face that or not. But personally, I would discourage it. I would discourage mail delivery through this. But they do it in other parts of the country all the time, too. So there's that. Bongway asks, is there any snow enhancement from the warmer Gulf waters? The moisture is coming out of the Gulf. So in that respect, yeah, the Gulf moisture is playing a role in the snow amounts. But it's not them necessarily being any warmer than normal that would be enhancing them or enhancing the snow accumulation. Katie says there's no ice today, correct? Correct. No ice today. Cindy asks, will Jeff Davis Parish or in Lake Arthur see 10 inches of snow? Again, it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that a few areas may end up seeing that much. I can't tell you what those areas are going to be. It could be Lake Arthur. It could not be Lake Arthur. I can't tell you in advance exactly how much snow you're going to get. Snow forecasting is very, very difficult. Even these numbers that I'm showing you here are these are just general overall numbers. It's very likely that a lot of areas will fall outside of these values, either high or low. Anita says, if we have power outages, how long do you think they will last? There's too many variables for me to offer an opinion on that. It could be a matter of an hour. It could be a matter of a couple of days. It depends on how many power outages there are and whether bucket trucks are able to get out to make those repairs, where they are, how difficult the repair is. So, there's just too many variables for me to answer that with any degree of accuracy. Okay, I didn't go off the air here. I'm just reading through, trying to find the questions. Danny asked, what's your time estimate on I-10 deteriorating? Again, looking at the timing of the onset of the snow, again, we're looking at roughly after midnight tonight, with the majority of the snowfall likely falling between about 6 a.m. and noon. So that's when I would expect road conditions to really begin to deteriorate. It could be a little bit earlier than that, but that's the most likely time frame for us to start to have road problems. Edward says, will essential workers like first responders be able to travel Wednesday morning? That's going to depend. Large trucks, four-wheel drive vehicles, very, very slowly and carefully, probably. But it may be tough going. Troy asked, what will the wind chill be in Southeast Texas tomorrow? Let me, I can pull our wind chill forecasts up here. So here are our Southeast Texas wind chill values as we go. This is really all week. But looking at tomorrow, you can see the values falling tonight into early tomorrow morning into the lower 20s. And then by Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning, we're going to be back into the lower teens. So it is going to feel cold out there. Nymphateria says, how long before you think the snow will melt? Do you think it will be tomorrow? No, I don't think. Whatever snow we get is likely not to melt until Thursday afternoon at the earliest, more likely Friday afternoon. Because remember, keep in mind, we're going to be below freezing from essentially late tonight all the way until Thursday afternoon. We're not going to rise above freezing. So as long as we're below freezing, snow is not going to melt. Everybody's asking if they're going to get up to 10 inches now. Yes, there is a possibility that Lake Charles could get up to 10 inches. I'm not saying that it's likely, but it is within the realm of possibility. Same as pretty much everywhere else. Kaylee says, I missed the entire live. Don't worry, Kaylee. It'll be available as a recording soon. Nefertiri asked, what time is the next live? The next live will be 7 p.m. this evening. Kathy says, is it possible that Orange, Texas can receive 10 inches of snow? Yes, it is possible. It's not necessarily likely, but it is possible. Just like it's possible in Lake Charles, and it's possible in Alexandria, and it's possible in Lafayette, and it's possible at my house, and my house, and my house, and your house. Kaylee says, how long will travel be unsafe in the Lake Charles area? Probably until Thursday afternoon, at least. Because again, we're going to be below freezing until Thursday afternoon. And so any snow that falls and accumulates is going to stay there until Thursday afternoon. Ashley asked a similar question. When will the snow start to melt? Again, it's going to be Thursday afternoon with I think the majority of the snow being gone by Friday afternoon. Although if there are snow pockets in the shade and there's significant accumulations, those could hang around to as late as perhaps Saturday. Renee asked, do you anticipate the roads will be drivable at any time on Tuesday? Perhaps very early Tuesday morning before the snow really starts to accumulate. But by Tuesday afternoon, I expect there'll be some significant road hazards. Tom asks, is freezing rain expected more towards coastal areas rather than northern areas? If we're going to see it anywhere, yes, it will be towards coastal areas. But right now, the probability of seeing freezing rain is very, very low. We're talking less than 10%. You're looking at the graphic on your screen there. This is the possibility of seeing any amount of freezing rain. You can see the only areas that have any chance really are kind of Iberia, St. Martin, St. Mary, maybe Lower Vermilion, maybe coastal parts of Cameron Parish. And even that is a very low percent chance. We're looking at 10% or less. So I don't expect we're going to have much in the way of freezing rain anywhere across the area. Lynn asked, during the storm, will winds be out of the south? No, winds are going to be out of the north, and actually probably more northeasterly. Let me pull up my wind graphic here. You can see those arrows there. Those are the directions. So we're going to be looking at Tuesday during the snow. We're going to be looking at winds out of the northeast. And again, they're going to be gusting 25, 30, maybe even 35 miles an hour. Cindy asks, are flat carports or patio covers at risk of collapse from the weight of snow? Yes, they are. Now that's going to vary depending on exactly how much snow you get and what kind of, how your patio or overhang is built. But yeah, snow is heavy, and as it piles up, it's going to build weight up. So yeah, that is going to be a possibility, unfortunately. And as I said at kind of at the top of the briefing, there's not a whole lot you can really do to prepare for that. You know, there's nothing you can really apply to get rid of it fast enough to not make it an issue. Ashley says, when should we start to see snow or icy rain begin? It's going to be snow. The probability of freezing rain is extremely low at this point. It's all going to be snow. As far as timing, we're going to be looking at maybe a few light snow flurries late this evening, but the majority of the activity is going to be after midnight, and the highest or most significant snow is going to fall between about 6 a.m. and noon. Crystal asks, will Avoyles Parish see snow? Yes, Avoyles Parish will see snow. RC asks, how long will the gusty winds last? They're going to last through the day on Tuesday. Let me pull it back up here. Okay, there it is. So pretty much all day Tuesday. They're going to come down somewhat Tuesday night. We're still going to be looking at gusts, maybe 10, 12 miles an hour Tuesday night. But you can see as we get into Wednesday, they're much lower. Those are our maximum wind gusts, and we're talking, you know, less than 10 miles an hour. So they will die down Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. But we are going to be looking at those strong gusty winds pretty much all day Tuesday. Brian says, hey, do you think the university neighborhood of Lake Charles could get 10 inches? No, no. Just because you asked it, you're not getting 10 inches now. I'm putting it in the weather machine. You are getting nothing. There will be no snow in the university neighborhood of Lake Charles. No, I'm just kidding. You're going to get snow. You're going to get several inches of snow. Are you going to get 10 inches? Maybe. Maybe not. Probably not, just because of that. Heather asks, will travel into Alexandria from Tennessee be safe early Wednesday morning? Possibly not. There is going to be lower snowfall totals as you go further north, but you're going to be running into snow accumulations as you're coming south towards Alexandria. So there could be travel hazards, road closures up towards Alexandria Wednesday morning. So yeah, that could be a problem. Francis asks, when is the best time to apply anti-freezing agent to house steps? I'm not sure that's necessarily the best idea, but if you're going to do it, I suppose early Tuesday morning before the snow really begins to accumulate, or after midnight tonight. I guess you could do it very late before you go to bed. I can't imagine antifreeze agent is going to be very good for your yard. Eventually it's going to melt off and it's all going to run into your yard. That could mess up not just your yard, but the water supply too. I don't know if you're talking about liquid anti-freezing agent. My advice as far as melting off ice or snow on concrete is to use either sand, or we've actually found that kitty litter is quite effective. Not so much at melting it off, but providing friction so that you don't have that slick ice surface. So I would recommend that over some kind of antifreeze on the ground. Salt is also an option, but the thing about salt, that's also going to eventually run off into yards, and that'll kill grass and kill plants and stuff like that. So kind of keep that in mind if you do end up using salt. Tim asks, are you looking to others like the Storm Prediction Center for guidance? The Storm Prediction Center is part of the Weather Service. They're part of our organization. So they don't necessarily do a whole lot with winter weather, but the Weather Prediction Center does. And so, yeah, we've been in collaboration with them. Carla loves my sense of humor. Well, thank you, Carla. I appreciate that. Sometimes you got to be a little funny to avoid going nuts, and so that's what I do. You're gonna have to forgive my my snarky personality. That's just kind of who I am. All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here for the time being. If you have a question that I missed for some reason, or you think of one once we get off of our briefing, if you're viewing this as a recording, feel free to shoot us a direct message on Facebook. I've been answering a lot of questions that way. You can also email me directly. My email's been on your screen there. In the bottom right-hand corner, it's donald.jones@noaa.gov. So my name with a dot in the middle, donald.jones@noaa, NOAA.gov, and I'll be happy to answer your question that way. We also have a phone number here at the Weather Service office, area code 337-477-5285, and we have forecasters here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a week, including in the snow. So we'll be happy to answer any questions you have regarding that as far as we are able. Our next briefing is going to be 7 p.m. this evening. So in the meantime, if you have questions, talk to us that way, and we will have another full update for you 7 p.m. this evening. That's probably going to be our last briefing before the snow begins to fall across the region. It's very cold out there this morning. The sun's finally up, but it is very cold out there. So if you're heading outdoors today, make sure to dress appropriately. It's going to stay cold all day. We're going to be in the right around 40, maybe upper 30s, but it's not going to warm up a whole lot. And then we will be looking at that snow beginning to move into the area late this evening, really picking up after midnight into tomorrow morning. That's when our conditions are going to potentially deteriorate. And the vast majority of the snow, again, will fall between about, say, we'll call it about 4 a.m. to about 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. That's when we're going to see the majority of the activity across the area. Next briefing, 7 p.m. We'll have an update for you at that time. Stay safe, stay dry, stay warm, stay wonderful, and we will talk to you again 7 o'clock this evening.